In one such moment, Ibrahim Traoré, the young and unflinching leader of Burkina Faso, made a statement that rippled across African political circles. Nigeria is the key. If Nigeria rises, Africa rises. But Nigeria will not rise with leaders who are chained to the West. It will not rise with those who kneel before foreign powers before they even stand before their own people. It was a remark that carried both urgency and frustration. And in that same breath, Traoré did something almost unheard of. He named a Nigerian leader he believed could break those chains. That man, he said, was Peter Obi. Ibrahim Traoré is not the kind of leader who minces words. Since taking power in Burkina Faso, he has rejected the diplomatic dance that so often keeps African leaders polite but powerless. Where others shake hands, he raises fists. Where others deliver rehearsed speeches written by consultants, he speaks with the raw directness of a soldier who has seen too much to pretend. In his view, Africa's liberation is not an academic discussion, it is a matter of survival. And in the grand chessboard of African politics, Nigeria is not just another piece. It is the queen. With over 200 million citizens, vast oil reserves, and cultural influence stretching from the streets of Johannesburg to the music charts of New York, Nigeria holds the kind of power that could either transform the continent or keep it shackled. And yet, to Traoré's eyes, that power has been consistently misused. The young Burkinabe leader has made no secret of his disdain for African leaders he believes serve Western interests before their own people. In his speeches, he often refers to the puppet strings, invisible yet unbreakable ties that keep nations locked in economic dependency and political submission. In his analysis, Nigeria has for decades been held in a delicate trap. Allowed to appear independent, but bound by trade agreements, foreign loans, and geopolitical deals that ensure it can never truly act against the interests of Washington, London, or Paris. When asked about current Nigerian leadership, Traoré's tone darkens. He speaks with caution, but also with unshakable conviction. Tinubu, he once remarked in a private conversation with journalists. Tinubu is clever. He knows politics. But he is a man tied to the very systems that keep Africa weak. You cannot serve two masters, your people and the West, and hope to be free. If you are dancing to their tune, it is their drum that will decide your next step. To Traoré, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, like many before him, represents continuity, the continuation of a political order that keeps Nigeria rich in resources but poor in sovereignty. So why Peter Obi? Why, out of all the Nigerian politicians, did Traoré single him out? For the Burkinabe leader, Obi represented something unusual in Nigerian politics, a leader who appeared to prioritize governance over patronage, who spoke less about loyalty to political godfathers and more about accountability to ordinary Nigerians. I have watched many Nigerian leaders speak, Traoré said, but only one speaks as if the people's dignity comes before the IMF's approval. That man is Peter Obi. It wasn't just about economic plans. It was about posture. Traoré saw in Obi the willingness to question the way things have always been done, a dangerous trait in a system that thrives on predictability and obedience. Nigeria's role in Africa cannot be overstated. Its economy accounts for nearly a fifth of the continent's GDP. Its film industry, Nollywood, shapes narratives across Africa and the diaspora. Its music has become a global export, with Afrobeats now a fixture in clubs from London to Los Angeles. But all of this cultural and economic power means little, Traoré argues, if Nigeria cannot act independently on the global stage. If Nigeria remains a puppet, he warns, then the rest of Africa will be told to follow the same strings. But if Nigeria breaks free, the strings will snap for all of us. This is not just rhetorical flourish. Historically, African liberation movements have often taken inspiration from the first country to make a decisive break. Ghana's independence in 1957 lit a fire across the continent. South Africa's end of apartheid sent shockwaves across borders. Traoré believes Nigeria could be the next domino, but only if it has the right leader. In Traoré's framing, Nigeria's political future can be reduced to two roads. On one path lies leaders like Tinubu, experienced, connected, and pragmatic, but also deeply enmeshed in the global economic order that keeps Africa dependent. These leaders may secure short-term stability, but at the cost of long-term autonomy. On the other path lies leaders like Obi, untested in the highest office but less compromised by international entanglements, potentially willing to take the political risks necessary to achieve real independence. This is not to say that Peter Obi is without flaws or that Traoré sees him as a savior. Rather, he views him as capable of being the kind of leader who could steer Nigeria towards self-determination. Traoré's comments on Obi were not just about Nigeria, they were about the entire Pan-African project. He understands that without Nigeria, dreams of African unity are little more than slogans. A liberated Nigeria could anchor a new economic alliance, one less dependent on the CFA franc, the World Bank, or Western-controlled trade routes. In this vision, Nigeria could lead an African military defense pact, reducing reliance on US and French troops. It could drive a continental infrastructure revolution, connecting ports, railways, and power grids from Dakar to Dar es Salaam. But all of this, Traoré insists, depends on leadership, not leadership that looks good at summits, but leadership that can withstand sanctions, media smears, and even the threat of assassination. Before ending his remarks, Traoré issued a warning that was as much about Africa's psychology as its politics. The West fears a strong Nigeria more than it fears any other nation in Africa. That is why they work so hard to keep her leaders friendly. But one day, a leader will come who cannot be bought, who will not bow. If you ask me, I think Peter Obi is the closest thing Nigeria has to that man right now. But if it is not him, it must be someone like him. Africa cannot wait another 50 years. The words echoed long after he spoke them. In them was both hope and a challenge. Hope that Africa's giant could awaken, and a challenge to Nigerians to choose leaders who will not sell their sovereignty for aid packages and trade deals. History is a ruthless judge. It will remember not the speeches made in quiet rooms but the decisions that altered the course of nations. If Nigeria chooses the path of dependency, it may continue to grow in GDP, but it will shrink in dignity. If it chooses the path of sovereignty, it will face turbulence, but it may finally claim the role history intended for it as the spearhead of a free and united Africa. For Ibrahim Traoré, the choice is clear. For Nigeria, it is yet to be made. And for the rest of Africa, the stakes could not be higher. In the end, perhaps it is fitting to leave the last word to Traoré himself. Nigeria is the key. If Nigeria rises, Africa rises.